Chapter 1031A Wasteland. The Jade Slip was what Dustburner's progenitor had given to Su Ming in the past. Marked on it were certain regions of the fifth true world. Su Ming memorized the contents, and as he moved forward, he saw a white river several days later. The Fifth Abyss River. Su Ming's footsteps came to a halt and he looked at the Abyss River that seemed to cut apart the galaxy. He also saw two gigantic voids at the two distant ends of the river. He had no idea where those two gigantic voids went. They existed in the galaxy, and the White Abyss River flowed between them, making those two voids look like two eyes with empty gazes. When Su Ming read the Jade Slip with the Fifth True World's map he'd gotten from Dustburner's progenitor, he saw the Fifth Abyss River carved on it. It was just a simple carving, but its head was white. That was because white symbolized the abyss. It did not mean death, but was the manifestation of an idea. Right then, Su Ming saw the Fifth Abyss River. He realized that the river was the exact same as what he had imagined in his head. The two voids that looked like eyes and connected the two ends also fit with Su Ming's imagination. On one end is a planet called Burning Dust. Su Ming mumbled. It was on the carved map within the Jade Slip. When he raised his head, he headed for the Fifth Abyss River. The closer he went, the thicker the aura of death became. Su Ming saw corpses drifting about in the Fifth Abyss River, and when he left, he suddenly stopped before turning his head around to look back. He had a vague feeling that something was off, but he was momentarily unable to figure out just what gave him that feeling. In silence, Su Ming said softly, "Baldy." He was calling out to the bald crane in his storage bag, but he obtained no answer. When he frowned, he fused his Artman into his storage bag and saw that the bald crane was not in there. A glint shone in Su Ming's eyes, and the feeling that something was off became stronger. After remaining silent for a moment, he chose to leave. When he left, the numerous corpses in the Fifth Abyss River continued drifting about. However, all of them looked as if they were lying face down in the river. One could only see their backs, but not their faces. Su Ming walked through the galaxy. He had no idea how much time had passed. He seemed to have forgotten about the passage of time while he traveled through the Fifth True World. He just continued walking until he saw a planet in the distant galaxy. It was a burning planet. Thick waves of fire spread from it, enveloping it in a sea of fire. That planet was the origin of fire spirits which Dustburner's progenitor had spoken about. Su Ming stared at the planet, and the feeling that something was off became stronger in his heart, but he still could not find what in particular gave him that feeling. His heart was on guard, but even so, he still could not discover any form of threat. From the moment he stepped into that place to the moment he saw the planet, he was the only person in the galaxy. He did not see another living being. Su Ming was silent. With hesitation, he walked towards Burning Dust Planet. He walked past the sea of fire, and when he stepped on the planet, he spread out his Artman, but he still did not find any signs of life. The ground was a desert, a plain of sand burning in a sea of fire. The sky was crimson red and filled with flames. There were no rivers or trees in the planet. The only thing there was sand. Su Ming grabbed a burning lump of earth and put it into his storage bag. He cast a scrutinizing glance at Burning Dust Planet again before turning around quietly and leaving. He walked absent-mindedly within the Fifth True World, which was completely devoid of life. He was the only person in the whole world and the entire universe. The silence around him gradually turned suffocating, which gave Su Ming a feeling as if there was a depression in him that he could not vent out. However, he also felt that everything was as it should be. The Fifth True World was supposed to be an existence void of life. It was a dead universe. The destruction here, the wastelands, and everything else were the exact same as he had imagined. There was nothing different. Time passed year by year, with Su Ming continuing to charge forward through the galaxy. He only had one Goala planet marked on the map that was located far in the distance. A planet called Abyss Vessel. It was Abyss Builder's homeland and also his race's holy land. In the past, Abyss Builder's progenitor lived over there. Time passed quietly, without notice. Then one day, when Su Ming felt that he should be near the planet, he saw an aquamarine blue cultivation planet ahead of himself. That color was incredibly unique in the galaxy, making it hard to forget after seeing it once. Abyss Vessel Planet. When Su Ming saw the blue planet, his body trembled. In silence, he walked closer to it. When he came onto the planet, stepped into its atmosphere, he saw that it was a wasteland. Only the azure blue shade of the seawater moved about as waves formed on the water's surface. It was all silent, and even the sound of the waves seemed to be completely cut off. There was wreckage all over the ground. Shattered rocks were everywhere, and Su Ming could vaguely see an image of numerous cities, but all of them had been reduced to ruins. There were no mountains that were too tall. All of them were broken, as if they were the proofs that a war that shook the entire fifth true world had happened there in the past. While in midair, Su Ming stared at the ground and the wreckage on it. He walked down in silence, then went past the ruins of numerous cities until he reached the center of the planet. He saw an island in an ocean there, and on it was a gigantic palace, most of whose structure had collapsed. Once, there had been plenty of statues standing tall at the square in front of it, but there were only 3 of them left. 2 were headless. Clearly, they had been shattered during the war in the past. Only 1 statue was still complete, and it portrayed a woman. Su Ming stared at it, for it was his mother, the woman who was currently lying in the coffin within the 5th kill and absorbing life force to preserve her life. It was her statue. Based on the statue's positions, one of the headless 2 stood at the center. It should have belonged to the most important person. He might not have a head anymore, but Su Ming could tell that it should have been of Abyss Builder's progenitor. By his side was Su Ming's mother, so on his other side. With a complicated gaze, Su Ming looked at the other headless statue, and his appearance was just as indistinct and vague as in his imagination. Su Ming remained silent for a long time before turning around and walking through practically the entire Abyss Builder's planet. Several days later, when he returned back, he sat down cross-legged in front of his mother's statue. He just sat there quietly and stared at the statue before he looking at his surroundings and sinking into a pensive silence. Time slowly passed by him. 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Su Ming still sat there without moving. However, as time passed, a brilliant dark light gathered in his eyes, and he gradually closed them. In the core of Divine Essence Star Ocean was the 5th ocean, and the deepest part of it was a place the world outside could not see. The sea of fog there tumbled about, surrounding a gigantic altar. On the altar there was a huge mirror made of aquamarine blue. It was crystal clear and exuded a powerful, mighty pressure. It spread out as if it was suppressing the entire 5th ocean and forced the sea of fog tumbling about to quiet down when it reached a certain point. At that moment, the 4 people with the masks of happiness, anger, grief, and resentment were sitting cross-legged around the huge mirror. They did not close their eyes but were staring at the crystal-like surface before them. After a long while, the person with the mask of grief lowered his head and sighed softly. There was no longer cold detachment within his eyes, but a complicated look. As he sighed, the person with the mask of anger turned his head towards him before asking in a low voice, "Can take it any more?" There was a magnificence to that voice, along with a domineering air that made him seem as if he was looking down at the universe. "I am indeed unable to bear with it any longer, but you are the same." When the person with the mask of grief said those words flatly, he cast a glance at the person with the mask of anger. That person lowered his head in silence. After a long while, he let out a long sigh and mumbled under his breath, "Perhaps I made a mistake in the past. From the moment we gave up on our identities from the arid triad expanse cosmos and became the guardians of Dark Dawn Ocean, we drew a line between ourselves and our pasts. We cut off all ties with all the emotions we had in the past. This is just the first test by Dark Dawn Ocean. If he can't even see through the test in this place, then he is not a person needed by the 180 expanse cosmoses in Dark Dawn," a low voice said, coming from the person with the mask of happiness. "You once mentioned that besides the 4 great legacies of happiness, anger, grief, and resentment, there is in truth still another legacy. There should be 5 guardians in Dark Dawn Ocean. Who is the 5th person?" A hoarse voice asked faintly and abruptly, coming from the person next to the mask of anger who had not yet spoken before. "Happiness, anger, grief, resentment, and cessation. The 5th legacy has absolutely no emotions within it. It is the mask of cessation that disperses all 7 emotions and 6 desires," the person with the mask of happiness said flatly. "I have a question. The three of us have had many scions, but you once said that there is only one generation for the legacy of happiness. I'm very curious. Just, who were you when you were in arid triad expanse cosmos? The person with the mask of grief immediately asked. When it will be time for the three of you to know, you will naturally know, the person with the mask of happiness said calmly. The people with the masks of anger, grief, and resentment fell silent when they heard it, but they still looked at the person with the mask of happiness with curiosity. At that moment, the crystal mirror around they sat suddenly became muddled. As clouds and fog surrounded it, it looked like there was wind stirring up and clouds surging around them. Buzzing sounds reverberated in the area, and the people with masks of anger, grief, and resentment immediately looked over. Only the person with the mask of happiness remained as aloof as ever. Chapter 1032 Mask of Cessation. At the instant the three of them looked towards the crystal mirror, Su Ming, who had been sitting and meditating for nearly a century on the Abyss Vessel planet in the fifth true world, opened his eyes. His gaze was calm. When he looked at his mother's statue, Su Ming sighed softly. I only managed to see my mother's statue here because I saw my mother before. I never met Su Xianxia, that's why his statue is headless. I never met the Abyss Builder's progenitor either, that's why his statue is also headless. Su Ming stood up and looked towards the entire Abyss Vessel planet. The planet is the exact same as I imagined. This true world is also the same as I imagined. Su Ming shook his head. He took a step towards the air, and within an instant, he appeared in the galaxy. That year, I imagined that the planet was near, and then Abyss Vessel planet appeared. Now, I will have this thought. The fifth Abyss River is in front of me. Su Ming mumbled. He lowered his head, and when he lifted his head again, the fifth Abyss River appeared in front of him. He saw the corpses in the river. All of them only had their backs revealed before him. Their faces were not shown. This is also because I have never met you, that's why I can't imagine different appearances for all of you. Su Ming shook his head, then walked towards the galaxy. I might not want to believe it, but during the past 100 years, I already guessed at the moment I saw the statue, this isn't the fifth true world. There is no Abyss Vessel planet here. The real fifth true world isn't here as well. What a lie, what an outrageous lie. A fierce glare appeared in Su Ming's eyes. At the instant Su Ming spoke, the universe around him suddenly trembled. All the shattered stones in it vanished. All the air around him swiftly distorted and turned into an arc. This arc was formed after the entire galaxy was distorted. As it slowly spun in front of Su Ming, it turned to face him, and when it did, its appearance caused Su Ming's heart to shake. Because he saw a gigantic mask appear in front of him once the galaxy distorted. The white Abyss River was a line between the eyes on the mask, and the two voids at the two ends of the Abyss River which looked like eyes to him in the past, were now the blank eyes on the mask. Su Ming would never forget that mask. That mask was the one forced on him when he was in Yin Death region. The mask that cut off all 7 emotions and 6 desires within him, the mask of cessation. Due to this mask, Su Ming came to Divine Essence Star Ocean. Now, more than 1,000 years later, he saw the mask again, and understanding rose swiftly in Su Ming's heart. That so-called searching for your king you told me in the past and the rumors in the worlds outside about the fifth true world's entrance being located here is a lie. You didn't just lie to me, you also lied to the first god of berserkers, Xianxia. A brilliant light shone in Su Ming's eyes. At that moment, he had come to completely understand everything. This is a legacy that is similar to that of the 4 guardians with the masks in the 5th ocean. If my guess is correct, then there should not be originally 4 masked people here, but 5. And after happiness, anger, grief, and resentment comes the mask of cessation that cuts off the 7 emotions and 6 desires. At the moment you made me wear the mask to come to Divine Essence Star Ocean, you didn't want me to search for your king or search for the entrance to the 5th true world. You wanted to make me the 5th guardian in this place. I now understand the complicated emotions and the confusion on Xianxia's statue in the past as well, because at that time, he might have already noticed the hints, but in the end, he still stepped into your fraud. One of the 4 masked people is Xianxia. A brilliant light shone swiftly in Su Ming's eyes. At that moment, His understanding caused his mind to suddenly be clear. Su Ming's heart trembled, because he remembered his master, Xianxia, and he was almost certain that if Xianxia was still alive, then one of the four masked people was Xianxia. It did not matter whether it was Lai Shanxiu, Chen Zaizi, or Su Ming. The three of them all had one similarity, and that was, the three of them came from Yin Death region. When he looked at it this way, Su Ming's heart was in shock again. Who, exactly, was the third and fourth person among the four? Wear the mask and become the fifth guardian of Dark Dawn Ocean. Envoy of Cessation, you will know everything that you wish to know. You will know all the secrets regarding Arid Triad Expanse Cosmos, the fifth true world, and the Abyss Builders. Become the Envoy of Cessation and you will never have any worries as well as uncertainties, and you will be given eternal life as well. This is your life. You cannot fight back against it. From the moment you wore the mask and was sent into Divine Essence Star Ocean, your path in your life has already been decided. No matter how hard you try to change it, you cannot escape from it. Your fate is to become the bearer of the Mask of Cessation in Dark Dawn Ocean. An ancient voice with a cold detachment and a supreme mighty pressure tumbled out in roaring waves from the mouth of the gigantic galactical mask. There was in no way Su Ming would forget that voice. That voice belonged to the ancient will from Yin Death region, the one that had threatened him with his senior brother's lives and forced him to wear the mask. You are unable to refuse, you cannot refuse, and neither do you have the right to refuse. You are chosen to become my envoy of cessation. That voice echoed and shook space. The mask formed by the gigantic galaxy rushed forward swiftly to cover Su Ming with a loud bang. A powerful, mighty pressure gathered swiftly on Su Ming's body, causing Su Ming to instantly be unable to move even a single inch. However, at the instant that mighty pressure descended on him and Su Ming felt that he could not move, a power that swiftly allowed him to regain his mobility traveled out rapidly from his cultivation base clone Dao Kong's original body. Or rather, this was not a power. It was an aura. That aura was long-lasting and similarly brought with it a supreme will that crashed head-on against the incoming mask with a bang. Su Ming could sense that aura. That was an aura from true Morning Dao world. That was the power of Kismet. That was the Kismet from the entire true Morning Dao world, and it was forcibly interfering with everything, because Dao Kong's body was something loved dearly by true Morning Dao world's Kismet, and now it was clear that there was a power from a world beyond clashing fiercely against that Kismet. Su Xianyi, even if you have already calculated all of this and specifically delivered a physical body so that this child will possess Kismet, I have also long since predicted this. There is no way I will let you succeed. As the mask charged forward, that ancient and cold voice echoed in the air with a loud bang. At the instant the voice echoed in the air, the gigantic mask instantly turned around and had its back facing Su Ming. Countless white threads also crawled out swiftly from within it. As they squirmed around, they spread out, making them look incredibly terrifying, and during that time, those white threads intersected with each other to form a gigantic face. That face was ancient, and its expression was numb. It looked like a piece of human skin, and it was filled with those white threads from within. At the same time it rushed towards Su Ming, it immediately crashed into that invisible Kismet. When booming sounds echoed in the air, that ancient voice from the mask spread out again. To deal with that Kismet from true Morning Dao world, I've been preparing for tens upon thousands of years and gathered together the face of misfortune from true Morning Dao world to break the Kismet you brought to this place. Now, scatter. When he said these words, booming sounds shook the universe and made the space in all directions tremble. The Kismet from true Morning Dao world gathered on Su Ming's cultivation base clone immediately tumbled backwards in the midst of those booming sounds and collapsed. Without the Kismet from true Morning Dao world, that face where the interior was filled with thin threads also spread out to turn into countless squirming thin threads again. At the instant it charged towards Su Ming, the mask in the galaxy shrank swiftly, but at the moment it closed in on Su Ming, Yikang's presence erupted swiftly with a bang from Su Ming's body, and Yikang's body appeared behind him. Puny little Yikang, if you were at the peak of your strength, you would still have some abilities that would pose as a threat. After all, you were one of the lives in Old Man Extermination's ballad, but for your current self, shatter. That cold voice echoed in space again. With a bang, Su Ming's entire body was covered in blood. The ikang behind him was swiftly torn to shreds before it crumbled. This is your fate, the fate you cannot avoid. You are my envoy of cessation. The cold voice was emotionally wrought up, and the mask formed by the galaxy continuously shrank before it turned into a normal size. It instantly covered Su Ming's face, and countless white threads crawled swiftly into Su Ming's skin and flesh in a frenzied pace. They connected tightly with his flesh and blood, intending to forcefully make Su Ming wear the mask again. From now on, you will no longer have a name. You will only have one title: Cessation. As the old man's voice echoed in space, Su Ming's entire body shuddered. The mask covered his face, and intense pain rose in his entire body. At that moment, madness appeared in his eyes. Black stone fragment, seed of life extermination, take off this mask for me, find its flaw. When Su Ming roared in his heart, the seed of life extermination in his soul shone swiftly with a powerful light. Once that light spread out rapidly from Su Ming's soul, it shot out of his body and erupted quickly from within him. That light was made of an intersection of 9 colors. When Su Ming's body was enveloped in that light, it was as if another figure had appeared faintly on his body. That was an old man, an existence dressed in a white robe and stood above all lives. That was the Old Man Extermination. However, in the Old Man Extermination's eyes was Su Ming's madness. He lifted his right hand slowly and pushed his palm on the mask over his face. At the moment his right hand touched the mask, it let out a shrill scream of pain as if it possessed life. As it screamed in pain, it changed swiftly under Su Ming's right hand, as if all the structures within it were being rapidly disassembled. It was also during this moment that the old voice, which might have come from the mask or space itself, had astonishment appear in his voice for the first time ever, and his voice echoed swiftly in space. This is the Old Man Extermination. You are the extermination of this generation. This is impossible, this is. For the first time ever, there was panic in that voice, and there was also a great amount of shock that had never appeared before in his tone. As it reverberated in space, the mask immediately melted at the instant Su Ming's right hand touched it. It disappeared layer by layer until Su Ming's face was shown. The mask disintegrated with a bang. During that instant, the space around him completely crumbled. As it shattered layer by layer, everything in this place was crushed. As it was pulverized, the old man's voice from space let out a roar that showed he was unwilling to accept defeat. Dark Mountain. Xiao Hong, the fragment. Seed of life extermination. Su Xianyi, so your counterattack is here. I won't accept this. I can't accept this. Bang! The space completely collapsed to reveal the fifth ocean, along with the blue crystal mirror that had been reduced to shards and was sweeping to the entire area. The strongest ever windstorm also stirred up to rage and sweep through the entire fifth ocean. End of Arc 4. Chapter 1033 I Want to Go Home Arc 5. My morning Tao whirled the storm spread out of the blue crystal mirror with a bang, so strong that it couldn't hand it. As it shattered into countless shards, they swept through the whole area. Due to the mirror crumbling, the fifth ocean looked as if there was no longer anything suppressing it, and because of it, the ocean let out incomparably loud roars as its impact rushed out. In the mid of them, the ocean's frenzied rampage caused waves to tumble about. A large amount of fog surged, rising then falling. When the impact spread out and touched it, it immediately disintegrated as if evaporating layer by layer. If anyone looked at the fifth ocean from above, they would be able to see clearly that as it tumbled about, the force formed a circular ring of light. It traveled through the area with loud booms, as if a shocking destruction had just occurred. After a moment, the whole place evaporated under the impact. The booming sounds formed echoes in the inner parts of Divine Essence Star Ocean. The vast and boundless seawater started showing signs that it was about to vanish. Disappearing along with it were the people with the masks of happiness, anger, grief, and resentment, who had began retreating swiftly after the mirror shattered. Dark waves of light shone on the masks on their faces at that moment before it covered their bodies, which then disappeared without a trace. Perhaps leaving like that was not their intention, but that light from the mask circling round them and the roars from the fifth ocean formed a power that did not allow them to resist. It was forcibly interfering with everything regarding their intention to escape. Booming sounds continued resounding in space. The fifth ocean roared as it tumbled and gradually evaporated, slowly disappeared forever from the core of the inner part of Divine Essence Star Ocean. The spot where the fifth ocean had originally existed was surrounded by a thick fog, and from then on, it would be like that. Several days later, when the booming sounds gradually grew fainter, a figure appeared in the fog, slowly approaching from the distance. With one step at a time, that figure walked out of the fog, and grey light immediately spread out. It was the grey Su Ming. Beside him was a sleazy bald crane whose existence was incredibly discordant with him. Su Ming did not see the crane when he was in the fake fifth true world, but once he walked out of it, the crane appeared on its own. Clearly, all of it was related to the fake fifth true world. At that moment, as the bald crane followed behind Su Ming, it had its head held high. Su Ming's expression was dark. When he walked out of the fog, he turned his head around to cast a glance behind him. By then, the fifth ocean was already distorted beyond recognition. One of the four people with the masks of happiness, anger, grief, and resentment is definitely my master, and the other is Xianxia. I wonder just who are they, and who are the remaining two? Now that the fifth ocean dispersed and the four of them disappeared, I cannot find any traces leading to them. But no matter what, all of this has a great connection with the ancient will from Yin Death region. Once I find that ancient will, I'll be able to find them. A freezing glare shone in Su Ming's eyes. When he lowered his head, he fell silent. During that time, he remembered his fight against the ancient will within the fake fifth true world. That fight might have seemed simple, but it contained the accumulation of countless years' worth of preparation as well as an invisible battle between Su Xianyi and the ancient will. My previous guess was indeed correct. Dao Kong entering Divine Essence Star Ocean was due to him being led there by Su Xianyi's will. He sent me this body, and his goal was to have me possess him. Once I possessed Dao Kong, I would obtain true Morning Dao World Kismet, but all of that was just to blind Yin Death region's will. The true blow was the seed of life extermination, which is the black stone fragment Xiao Hong gave me in the past. All of that was prepared by Su Xianyi. Su Ming's expression was slightly complicated. He remembered the ancient will roaring with refusal to admit defeat before eventually disappearing. Clearly, that ancient will could learn everything it wanted in Yin Death region. However, Su Xianyi had used some unknown method to hide the fact that Xiao Hong had given Su Ming that black fragment in the past, or rather, he had made the ancient will form an incorrect perception about the stone fragment, because of which it was then ignored. However, the ancient will understood everything in the end, which was why it uttered that sentence. When Su Ming remembered all that had happened, complicated emotions rose within him towards Su Xianyi. There was resentment there, but also a sigh that meant too many things. Even though he had never met his father, the man's actions were filled with great fatherly love, no matter whether it was the matter of giving him the seed of life extermination or delivering Dao Kong for possession. In fact, there were definitely other things that Su Ming had not noticed even till then, and he could sense the fatherly love from them. If that's the case, why did you leave me alone in the land of berserkers? Why did you separate my soul from my physical body? Why did you leave my mother lying in the fifth kill? Just, where are you? Who are you? Su Ming mumbled. He knew that everything would be revealed before him when he returned to true Morning Dao world. After remaining silent for a while, a brilliant light shone in his eyes. Since I can't find the real entrance to the fifth true world, then it's time for me to leave the barren lands of divine essence and return to true Morning Dao world. Su Ming turned his head around and looked at the galaxy in the distance. A hint of resolve and fierceness appeared in his eyes. He wanted to return to true Morning Dao world and retrieve his physical body. He wanted to know the answers to all the mysteries around him, and he wanted to find out who was Su Xianyi. That's right. Let's go back to true Morning Dao world. Darn it all, I want to go back too. I can hear all the crystals in true Morning Dao world calling out to the great me. They're all waiting for the great and supreme me, myself, and I to love them. Hurry up. Let's go quickly. The bald crane stood with excitement on its face while shouting with joy. Its expression was of someone mesmerized, a telling sign that it was imagining something happy and glorious. Dao Chen. Su Ming moved forward, and the sound of air being sliced apart rose swiftly as he charged forth. With the 5th kill in his possession and as the current sign of the seed of life extermination, he was already the strongest person in Divine Essence Star Ocean. Even if he did run into an enemy who was an almighty in Mastery Realm, so what? Su Ming did not even need to activate the 5th kill to fight against that almighty on his own. Even if he ran into an almighty in Fate Realm, Su Ming had the art to cut fate, and with the 5th kill, he could fight against that person. The only regretful thing about it was that Su Ming did not want to take the 5th kill away. If he left it in its place, it would reach its optimum state in terms of effectiveness. I will leave this place and return to True Morning Dao World. I want to go home. Su Ming became faster. As he turned into a long arc and charged forward through the galaxy, his hair color gradually changed. It was not red, but neither was it gold. Instead, it returned into its original color, and nostalgia appeared in his eyes. Eldest senior brother, second senior brother, and who's he? Su Ming became even faster. He shifted and shot across the galaxy. Yu Xian too, the bald crane immediately shouted by the side. As the Abyss Dragon's boss, it felt that it needed to help the Abyss Dragon speak during that moment. Yu Xian. A reminiscent look appeared in Su Ming's eyes. In his recollections was a girl who ate roasted seeds with a grin while staring at him. Several days later, he appeared beyond a burning planet in the region between the inner part and the periphery of Divine Essence Star Ocean. There were thick flames raging in that planet, and that place was where Flame Fiend's progenitor lived. It was his territory. Su Ming looked at the planet. After some time, he suddenly opened his mouth, and his voice rang with thunderous booms that echoed in all directions while it went to Flame Fiend's planet. Progenitor Hua Kuei, do you remember your old friend from the 5th kill? Hua Kuei, do you still remember your grandpa crane? The bald crane shouted loudly as well. It intentionally stood in front of Su Ming. By doing so, it would make it felt that it was the true center of attention. Since Su Ming was behind it, he was just a guard. The man and the crane's voices went into Flame Fiend's planet and into each of Flame Fiend's ears. The thunderous roar formed from those voices turned into a mighty pressure. When it descended, the whole planet shuddered, and all the Flame Fiends immediately shuddered as well. Absolutely no thought of resistance could rise in them under that mighty pressure. They felt like the world was crumbling and nothing existed in it anymore. As they quivered, they let out shrill roars as they prostrated themselves on the ground, unable to stand. In the depths of Flame Fiend's planet was a karst cave filled with lava. Within it was a statue which jolted at that moment, and a large number of cracks swiftly appeared on it to reveal the body of Flame Fiend's progenitor. His eyes were shut, so he opened them swiftly and looked in the direction of the galaxy and spoke in a wild and untamed manner. Which old friend? Before he could finish speaking, Flame Fiend's progenitor started shuddering, and excitement appeared on his face. Without any hesitation, he turned into a long arc and shot from the ground with a bang, shaking the whole planet. In an instant, he rushed out and stood in the galaxy. When he did so, he saw Su Ming looking at him. You are. Flame Fiend's progenitor stared at Su Ming. The excitement on his face turned into surprised delight. He knew that Su Ming would definitely return one day. I've come back. Su Ming stared at Flame Fiend's progenitor, and a smile appeared on his face. He could be said to have gone through many things together with Flame Fiend's progenitor in the 5th kill. At the start, the two of them had fought against each other, then Hua Kuei had submitted to him. In time, they got acquainted with each other and slowly formed a bond that gave them the feeling as if they were friends. In the end, when Flame Fiend's progenitor gritted his teeth and stayed after Zi Long and Long Hai had left, Su Ming no longer treated him as an enemy, but a friend. Thank you for the matter in the 5th ocean, Su Ming said to Flame Fiend's progenitor as he wrapped his fist in his palm and bowed. His act of bowing immediately made Flame Fiend's progenitor nervous. He instinctively took a few steps back and stared at Su Ming with uncertainty. The impression Su Ming left in his mind was too strong, so when he spoke with such courtesy, Flame Fiend's progenitor found it uncanny, and he became suspicious of it. Chapter 1034 Entering Western Ring Nebula once more. When Su Ming saw Flame Fiend's progenitor reacting that way, he laughed wryly in his heart before making his expression turn aloof and letting out a cold harumph. When Flame Fiend's progenitor heard it and saw the icy expression, he calmed down, finding it normal. Just as he was about to say something, Su Ming raised his right hand and pointed at him. Flame Fiend's progenitor instantly started trembling furiously. Gradually, a large amount of black sweat broke out on his skin. Once it was forced out of his body, it swiftly gathered together and turned into a drop of water that was the size of a fist and gave off a foul stench. When it disappeared before Flame Fiend's progenitor, an incomparably light feeling rose within him. The seal has been broken. Hue Kue, don't go to the fifth kill anymore. If we are destined to meet again, the both of us will surely see each other in the future. I bid you farewell. Su Ming cast a glance at Flame Fiend's progenitor before leaving. When he turned around and was just about to leave, his footsteps suddenly came to a halt. He turned his head around and asked, "Where does Zhu Yue live?" "In Husband Gazing Mountain," Flame Fiend's progenitor quickly replied. The excitement of seeing Su Ming had already disappeared by then. The wariness and the powerful impression the other had left 100 years ago rose again in his mind. Su Ming nodded. When he cast a glance at Flame Fiend's progenitor, he saw his cautious demeanor, and his lips slowly curled up into a smile. However, he did not know that when Flame Fiend's progenitor saw that smile, his heart let out a loud thump, and panic instantly rose in his heart. What's going on? This person kills without batting an eyelid. He's ruthless, merciless, and a calculative man, and now, he's smiling? Something's off. Something's very off. Flame Fiend's progenitor became even more cautious, and he took a few instinctive steps back. I'm going back to true Morning Dao world. Come with me, Su Ming said faintly, then turned around without bothering himself with whether Flame Fiend's progenitor would be conflicted about this. He simply walked into the galaxy. By his side, the bald crane let out a fake cough before casting a profound glance at Flame Fiend's progenitor. This is very important. Hue Kue, it's best that you think about it carefully. Heh. At the end, the bald crane still decided to intimidate him. It felt that its current situation was the most wonderful moment in its life. When it frightened Flame Fiend's progenitor, it did not forget to let out a few snorts. Flame Fiend's progenitor was instantly conflicted. He watched Su Ming walking into the distance, then listened to the bald crane threatening him before turning his head around to cast a glance at Flame Fiend's planet behind him. Hesitation rose within him. He was actually not worried about his people. With Flame Fiend's divine abilities, even if he was not around, no great accident would happen to them while they were in Divine Essence Star Ocean. And if he followed Su Ming, he might run into a great serendipity. He was especially certain of it when he remembered Su Ming's actions on their trip 100 years ago. It immediately gave Flame Fiend's progenitor confidence. He gritted his teeth, and resolve appeared on his face. If I follow such a calculative and conniving person, at the very least, I won't suffer any losses in the hands of other people. Flame Fiend's progenitor immediately turned his head around and let out a few shouts at Flame Fiend's planet. Immediately, commotion rose within it. Numerous Flame Fiends flew up and stared at their progenitor. There was a reluctance to part in their eyes, but all of them knelt down and worshipped him simultaneously. Flame Fiend's progenitor let out a few more shouts, a telling sign that he was leaving instructions as to what his people were to do after he left. Then, under the gazes filled with the reluctance to part from his people, he turned his head around and turned into a ball of purple flames that charged in the direction Su Ming had left. Husband Gazing Mountain was like an eternal existence in the galaxy. There were murmurs from the summit coming down all year long. The beautiful legend surrounding the mountain always stirred up the curiosity of those who came when they heard the murmurs. At that moment, Su Ming was standing on a stone rising from the ground at the center of the mountain. By his side was the bald crane and Flame Fiend's progenitor, while in front of him was a dark cave. Senior Chang He, I would wish to see you. Su Ming wrapped his fist in his palm and bowed to the mountain cave while he spoke calmly. The mountain cave was quiet. After a long while, a muffled bang came from the mountain cave, and an incomparably plump, hideous, and ugly figure walked out from within. Zhu Yuci. His eyes were crimson red. When he walked out, he stared at Su Ming. Conflict and madness were in his eyes. After some time, a calm expression slowly came to his face. He sat down limply by the side, and when he lifted his head to stare at Su Ming, his expression had already returned to its usual calmness. "You're back," he said faintly. Su Ming nodded. "Thank you for helping me when we were in the fifth ocean. About your wife." When Su Ming said those words, he paused for a moment. With a calm expression on his face, Zhu Yusei looked at Su Ming's face while waiting for the second part of his words. "When my level of cultivation is high enough and I can activate the abyssal world, I will definitely resurrect her," Su Ming stated slowly. His understanding towards abyss builders was not great, but he had a general idea that they had an inborn ability to resurrect the dead. However, the prerequisite for it was that abyss builders needed to activate their abyssal worlds. Su Ming did not know much about that. The Duke of Crimson Flame did not know about it clearly, but Su Ming believed that as his level of cultivation rose, there would surely come a day when he would understand his race's inborn ability. "Senior, before that time comes, if you believe me, then I can activate the fifth kill and have your wife's soul fuse into it to be nourished. With this, we could ensure that during this period of time, her soul will not scatter and vanish." With sincerity on his face, Su Ming bowed. Zhu Yucai was silent. After a long time, he stood up, lifted his head, and looked up at the summit. After some time, Zhu Yusai asked calmly, "Have you heard of the legend regarding this mountain?" "I've heard of it before." Su Ming nodded. A woman in the past waited for her husband's return on the mountain. As time passed and things changed, she did not manage to see him. Her body turned into stone, and the presence of her yearning turned into the mountain. "When I was in the fifth kill, I thought that I was already dead, and I was bent on seeking death, but when I died, I woke up again. Yet when I woke up, I was already here, and my body had become as such. I don't know the answer to all of this, but I can sense that there is another person in this person. He coexists with me, and his name is Zhu Yucai." He stared at the mountain as his voice echoed in the area. "Do you want to go to the summit and meet the woman who has turned into stone?" Zhu Yusai moved and turned into a long arc that charged at the summit. Su Ming stared at the man leaving into the distance. The legend Zhu Yusai had spoken of might not match with the legend Su Ming had heard, but he still chose to turn into a long arc and charge towards the summit. When the bald crane arrived at the mountain, its spirits became slightly downcast. At that moment, it stared at the mountain cave with a blank look on its face before also following behind Su Ming in silence. Ordinary people could not step into the mountain's summit. However, it was different for Zhu Yucai and Su Ming. They did not spend much time before arriving there. Su Ming saw a stone human at the peak of the mountain. Based on its appearance, it should have been a woman. She stood at the summit and stared into the distance, her thoughts unknown. Zhu Yusai stared at the stone, and a complicated expression appeared in his eyes. Perhaps he was not what he claimed to be. He did not wake up not knowing the reason behind his awakening after he died. Perhaps he knew the reason, but he did not want to say it. It was his secret. Behind Su Ming, the bald crane shuddered. Grief appeared in its eyes when it looked at the statue. As it watched it, eternity seemed to envelop it. Its current demeanor was something that could not be seen on usual days. "Why do I feel so miserable, as if my body is about to disappear?" the bald crane mumbled. At that instant, a few scenes flashed in its mind. Those pictures were indistinct, containing a vague form, a woman. She had her back turned toward the bald crane and was staring at a distant galaxy just like the statue. The bald crane could only sneak peeks at her while standing behind her and hiding its emotions since it did not want to show them. That lasted till one day when the woman began crying while staring at the galaxy, and the bald crane heard itself speak in a murmur. "So what if it's arid triad expanse cosmos? So what if my soul will scatter and vanish? I will help you find him." That voice echoed in the bald crane's mind. As it listened, it heard the anguish contained in the voice. The bald crane's vision became blurry. The pictures in its mind shattered and turned into fragments. When they were swept away, the bald crane felt awful and sad. "In other words, before you have enough power to activate your abyssal world, I will need to protect you." After a long while, Zhu Yuve averted his gaze from the stone human and turned his head around. Xu Ming remained silent for a moment before he met Zhu Yuzai's gaze. You can understand it that way. I don't need the fifth kill to provide nourishment to her. With my power, I can constantly ensure that her soul will not scatter and disappear. Zhu Yuzai closed his eyes. When he opened them again, a hint of fatigue appeared on his face. Then, if you don't fulfill your promise to resurrect her, I will make you suffer the same pain, Zhu Yuzai said calmly and lifted his foot to take a step into the galaxy. Once I've made a promise someone, I will definitely not go back on my word. Only death will stop me. Su Ming enunciated each of his words clearly. He then took a step forward. But just as he was about to leave, he suddenly had a stranger feeling and turned his head around to cast a glance at the bald crane before leaving into the distant galaxy while deep in his thoughts. While they were going forward, Su Ming walked in front. The bald crane was beside him while occasionally turning its head around to look at the mountain. Behind them were Zhu Yuzai and Flame Fiend's progenitor. The strange expression on the bald crane's face had attracted Zhu Yuzai's attention, but he did not say much about it. He also seemed to be immersed in his thoughts. As the group charged forward, they left the periphery of Divine Essence Star Ocean and moved past Black Ink Planet to step into Western Ring Nebula. Western Ring's foreign lands. At the moment Su Ming stepped into Western Ring Nebula, a brilliant light shone in his eyes. Before he left the barren lands of Divine Essence, his final stop had been Western Ring Nebula's foreign lands. Once he arrived there, it would be the time for his Yikang clone to devour the other Yikang souls. When he succeeded, his level of cultivation would increase by an incredible margin. Only then would he be able to stir up the disaster in true Morning Dao world once he returned to that place. Chapter 1035. Welcome back. Our liege, the foreign lands were fragmented and existed in countless cracks within the galaxy, including Western Ring Nebula. Even though centuries had passed since then, the mysteries and rumors about the place remained in the cultivators' hearts and did not disappear. Once they stepped in, then there was a high possibility that they would never be able to get out again. The mysterious veil about that place was something that only existed in name to Su Ming, but to most cultivators, the mighty pressure created by that mysteriousness was powerful enough to suffocate them. Su Ming had not seen that place for hundreds of years, and when he returned to Western Ring Nebula's foreign land again, he stared at the cracks in the galaxy. He did not say a word. Before his eyes, he seemed to be able to see himself hundreds of years ago being forced inside by the forces of power from the four great true worlds. He also saw himself wreaking havoc in their territory once he walked out, and then he was chased down by an Almighty in Mastery Realm. If that Almighty in Mastery Realm still dared to attack Su Ming, his palm would be cut off without any hesitation. Su Ming said faintly, "Senior Chang He, please wait in this place. I still have some matters to attend to here." Zhu Yuzai did not speak, but closed his eyes and sat down cross-legged in the galaxy. Su Ming turned his head around to cast a glance at Flame Fiend's progenitor. The thin old man immediately looked as if Su Ming's words would be a sacred edict. A fawning smile appeared on his face, and he nodded rapidly. Before Su Ming could even say anything about that kind of attitude, the bald crane, who no longer seemed dazed and sad as if it simply did not use its head to think, suddenly glared at Flame Fiend's progenitor, because it sensed an incredibly great threat that rushed straight into its head. That threat came from the fawning look of Flame Fiend's progenitor. His expression caused the bald crane to be in an incredibly bad mood. It immediately spread open its bare wings, then put on an arrogant appearance and glared at Flame Fiend's progenitor with a profound gaze. It bent its back and used the same fawning gaze to look at Su Ming before quickly saying, "Boss, should I go in and check things beforehand? If there is any sort of danger, with my abilities, I will definitely be able to resolve it. I won't be like certain people whose entire bodies go up in flames and who don't know how to share danger." The bald crane's solicitous words were something rarely spoken by it. Su Ming cast a sideways glance at it and smiled faintly. Flame Fiend's progenitor was momentarily stunned before he cast a scrutinizing glance at the bird. An expression of wanting to face danger together with Su Ming appeared on his face. He might be an Almighty in Mastery Realm, but for living spirits, no matter how high their level of cultivation was, it was difficult for them to change their nature. And it was the case for Flame Fiend's progenitor as well. When he was yet to become a progenitor, he might have had quite a promising potential, but him being able to obtain his current level of cultivation and the legacy of the previous Flame Fiend's progenitor, as well as being able to reach Mastery Realm in one go after slaughtering his way through numerous other potential successors, was due to him being good at flattering his progenitor in the past. However, it had been a long time since he had used that skill. That was why when he used it, he was still a little rusty. He was no longer as good as he was in the past. Su Ming did not bother with Flame Fiend's progenitor and the Bald Crane's passive-aggressive fight. He moved toward the crack leading to Western Ring Nebula's foreign land and charged into the crack, disappearing without a trace. The Bald Crane might have been full of bold words, but in truth, from the depths of its heart, it did not want to enter Western Ring Nebula's foreign land again. The time when it had fallen unconscious had traumatized it. When it saw Su Ming stepping into the place alone, it instantly let out a sigh of relief in its heart. However, anxiety appeared on its face then next moment, and it turned its head around to glare at Flame Fiend's progenitor. The expression of the man did not change. He grinned and stared at the Bald Crane before also putting on a fawning expression, but he was laughing coldly in his heart while thinking to himself that he had managed to blind many of his people with that appearance in the past. The calculative and conniving Su Ming was someone that he could not deceive, but the little birdie was definitely something that would be wrapped around his finger. When the Bald Crane saw Flame Fiend's progenitor's demeanor, it instantly felt its heart let out a loud thump and thought that it had underestimated him before. Hence, even though it let out cold snort in its heart, its expression changed. Its glare turned into a smile and it went forward to hug the thin Flame Fiend's progenitor before laughing and acting as if they were great friends. Little fire boy, when I saw you, I instantly felt that you are someone that I can be great friends with. You flatter me. Fellow Daoist Crane, you have the demeanor of an immortal and the bones those from the path of Tao. I'm afraid that these old bones do not have the courage to be friends with someone of such a high social position. Are you looking down on your grandpa Crane? The man and Crane both had their own thoughts in their heads while fighting passive-aggressively with words, but despite them it was quiet in Western Ring Nebula's foreign land. Quite a large number among the 100,000 stone monuments had made it past 1 million feet and stood tall on the ground. Among them were a certain 10,000 stone monuments. Their color might have seemed normal, but if anyone took a closer look, they would be able to tell that they were purple. There were plenty of people sitting and meditating beneath those 100,000 stone monuments. Occasionally, they would lift their heads and look at the 10,000 purple stone monuments, and all of their faces would show desire and envy. At that moment, there were dozens of people sitting under them. They did not move and their expressions were calm. However, in that silence was a determination and an air of supremacy. That was because they owned the purple stone monuments and because their stone monuments were the only ones among the 100,000 stone monuments that would not be destroyed by the will of the law in the land. The purple stone monuments would only have people added to them, but not lose anyone of their own. However, that was not absolute. They might not die because of outsiders replacing them, but there was another law among the purple stone monuments, and all of the people in the place knew about it. Each year, there would be people who would die, and those 10 would be the weakest 10 among the lot. It did not matter how tall was a person's stone monument. As long as their level of cultivation was at the bottom, they would be wiped off within 100-something years. Because of that, those who possessed the purple stone monuments were somewhat unique, besides the fact that they immersed in practicing cultivation for their whole lives. Purple Stone Monument. It's a pity that when I entered this place, the purple stone monuments did not choose me, or else I would have been able to become one of their tributes, and I wouldn't have to live in constant fear every single day. I would only need to train madly to be able to avoid being killed. This is our lives. But why are the purple stone monuments so unique, and from what I see, they only number to about a couple thousands? It's only been a short time since you came here, but this is largely connected to a legend from the past. In the quiet land with 100,000 stone monuments, there would occasionally be a few gazes which would land on the 10,000 purple stone monuments, and the faint voices of a few people speaking would be heard. While they were discussing things among themselves, the tallest purple stone monument suddenly shone, and an old man walked out from it which was 1,000,000-something feet tall. The old man had an ancientness to him. At the instant he walked out, he attracted the gazes of all the people in the area, especially the dozens of people underneath the purple stone monuments. All of them got up and bowed deeply to him. Greetings, progenitor. The old man nodded. Without saying a single word, he sat down cross-legged underneath his stone monument and closed his eyes to meditate. It's Zhao family's progenitor. The low-voiced discussion among the people from the other stone monuments echoed faintly in the air. That's right. That person's stone monument has long since reached the size at which he can go out, but he never chose to go. Instead, he's training in a frenzy. I heard from someone about a legend that happened a long time ago. There was a person called Mosu. Quiet. It's best not to mention his name in this place. He's not someone people like us can talk about. Oh. Then why can Big Brother Ju talk about him? Big Brother Ju? You're talking about Ju Kang, right? He's different from us. While the people from other stone monuments discussed the old events among themselves, a violent shudder ran through the land with the 100,000 stone monuments, as if wind had risen and clouds were surging. Rumbling sounds ring in the air. They spread in all directions, causing the ground to tremble and the air to continuously tumble about before turning into a drastic change that swept through the land. Cries of surprise instantly traveled in all directions. The land, which had countless stone monuments standing on it and only had some cultivators sitting cross-legged under them, trembled furiously as booming sounds reached a deafening volume. While the stone monuments trembled, they immediately shone with dazzling light, and their cultivators were forced out. Some of them had grim expressions on their faces, while others panicked openly. They looked upwards together. Boom! When a loud bang traveled downwards like the might of heavens, the originally indistinct purple hue above the 10,000 purple stone monuments among the 100,000 stone monuments in the land shone with a purple light brighter than anyone had ever seen. As it reached a piercing degree, it instantly covered the land, causing the 10,000 purple stone monuments among the 100,000 to be incredibly striking. Zhao family's progenitor's heart shuddered. He opened his eyes, and when he raised his head to look above him, a hint of rarely seen excitement appeared on his face. The other owners of the purple stone monuments beside him started trembling furiously. They could sense an incomparably familiar presence, and there was a great urge within them to bow down and worship it. As the tremors in the land grew stronger, that urge grew stronger in their hearts as well. The transformation in the land was something that plenty of them did not remember because they had never experienced it, but there was still a handful of people who seemed to have vague recollection, and their expressions changed to resemble something that was akin to a mix between excitement and anxiety. Ju Kang was sitting quietly under his stone monument. When he lifted his head to look at the tumbling air above him, a hint of sentimentality appeared in his eyes. He knew that Mosu had returned. I, Zhao Qiangang, welcome back our liege. Zhao family's progenitor stood up and wrapped his fist in his palm before bowing deeply towards the sky. When his ancient voice echoed in the air, all the owners of the purple stone monuments worshipped the sky together. Welcome back, our liege. Their voices spread out, resulting in loud bangs that shook the people from the other 90,000 stone monuments. As their expressions changed continuously, the sky roared, the fog and clouds tumbled back madly in two directions to reveal a gigantic crack, and a figure with an indifferent expression walked over from the distance. Slowly, it grew clearer in everyone's eyes. Mosu. Ju Kang, the person who briefed Su Ming about the foreign land when he arrived, was friendly to him, whose wife, Sima Yu, was killed, who Su Ming transferred from the blue stone monument to the purple stone monument, and who refused to leave this place because he wanted to remember his wife.